It's time for The Verdict. The Verdict is a lively discussion of current events and legal issues pertinent to Oklahomans. The Verdict is hosted by Kent Myers and Mick Cornett. It's time for The Verdict.
And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and we are here in really a new home, a new set for The Verdict.
Yeah, same place, but it sure looks different. Looks a lot better. 3.5 years, thanks to KSBI for being so kind to get us a new set. We really do appreciate it. For Brady and Brenda and all the crew, we thank you very much for this. We like it, and we think it'll make our guests more comfortable.
Topical issue today?
Today, election season. We're just seeing it every day as a top story or one of the top stories in the news about what's going on in elections both nationally and locally. I think most political scientists would agree that the best thing that could happen in our elective system is to have an informed electorate. And there is a group here in Oklahoma, the State Chamber, that is making a real bipartisan, issue-oriented or party-oriented effort to get employees of businesses educated about the issues that are going on in their area and with their particular representatives, and with the goal, I think, of having an informed electorate hit the polls in November and make some choices, whatever they may be, based on good information. And we're going to find out more about that. It's called Project Prosperity, and we've got Kris Rush, the project director from the State Chamber, with us today to talk about that. But a lofty goal, and I'm sure a difficult objective.
We'll introduce Kris Rush when we return on The Verdict. Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce our guest.
Today we are very pleased to have Kris Rush, who is the project director of the Prosperity Project for the State Chamber. Kris is a native of Fresno, California, but thank goodness she has relocated here to Oklahoma City. She has had a career in economic and business development around the country. She has been with the United States Chamber of Commerce in that area and has also been the chief executive officer of an organization that my late mother belonged to, the American Rose Society. My mother was one of 38,000 members serving with Kris. She is now with the Oklahoma State Chamber, and as I indicated, the project director of the Prosperity Project here in Oklahoma. Kris, welcome to The Verdict.
Thank you so much, Kent.
Glad to have you.
Good to be here.
Well, it's got a nice name, the Prosperity Project. What does it mean? What's it all about?
The Prosperity Project is a nonpartisan, free program for Oklahoma voters. It allows employers and employees for the first time to be able to talk about the issues that face us at the state level, the kind of issues that hold us back in creating new jobs, to share information about those issues and about the candidates that are running, where they stand on those issues, and then get us all to the polls.
What's the goal? How will you know if it's been successful?
The goal is that we elect in Oklahoma the most pro-jobs Democrats and Republicans that we can find, people who will grow our state and are committed to helping us keep the jobs that we have and attract new ones.
Now, Kris, as I understand it, this is the first year here in Oklahoma.
This is the first year.
What is the history, if any, of this kind of a project, either here or elsewhere?
Well, this program came out of 4 key elements that have all come together in 2004. First of all, it comes because of the need that we have in Oklahoma. You know, we have some potholes on the road to prosperity, and we're not growing as fast as surrounding states. Our per capita income is lower than the national average. We've got consistent problems that hold us back in economic development, and the people who can do something about it oftentimes don't go to the polls, the voters. So we've quickly become a state of the people, by the people, but without the people. So that's part of the reason why we wanted to start the program. Second of all is the opportunity that term limits has brought to Oklahoma. We're losing some terrific state legislators in 2004 because of term limits, but we do have 51 open seats. And this gives us an opportunity to make sure that the people that we elect are committed to growing our state. And so need, opportunity with term limits, and the program came to us, or the idea came to us from a national organization headquartered in Washington, D.C. called BIPAC. And they started a program like this at the national level at the 2002 election. And basically what they did a lot of research and found that at right around the 2000 election, that how people decided who they were going to vote for was beginning to change. Power of political parties was changing. Power of unions was changing. And so they started to ask the question, where would voters like to get information about who they have to vote for? And they found that on economic issues, the one place that they wish they got information was from the person who provided their job, from their employer, because they got the connection between their employer's understanding of the issues that were that face us at the state level, and the success of the company when it comes to providing benefits and wages and how the company can grow. So BIPAC started a program, an election education program at the national level with national companies, and those companies gave employees before the 2002 election information about the issues at the federal level and also about the candidates that were running. Totally nonpartisan, just presenting how candidates said they would vote on these issues. What they found was that at the 2002 election, while nationally the rest of us went out to vote at the level of 61% of us went out to vote. With Prosperity Project companies, 90% of those employees went out to vote.
Goodness.
It was incredible. So BIPAC made the concept of this program available to states. And the state chamber, because of the term limits and because of the kinds of programs and problems that we've been facing year after year, decided to jump at it and start implementing.
And got you involved.
That's exactly right.
Well, I understand how you can do a scorecard or a report card with someone with a voting record, but what do you do with a candidate, and you're dealing with a lot of open seats, who's never held office, and then you have to ask them a questionnaire, and how do you judge one who's never had a voting record with someone who has?
Well, the key thing is that we're not judging. What we've done is create what's called a prosperity agenda. 6 main areas of issues that affect the economy. And if I may, I'll run down them real quick.
Okay.
Issues that are related to making Oklahoma competitive in the race for new jobs with other states and other countries, for that matter. Dealing with the kinds of problems that hold existing business back. Things like workers' compensation, things like high liability insurance, those kinds of issues. The high cost of health insurance for employers who want to provide those kind of benefits to their employees. Crumbling roads and bridges, and creating an informed workforce. Those are key areas, and we've developed some questions that we provided to the candidates in each one of those areas so we can have the candidates tell us how they would solve some of these problems that are holding us back. So it's not us telling voters how they would vote, but it's the candidates themselves telling us why we should vote for them.
Let me jump in here and get us to a break.
Okay.
We're visiting with Kris Rush, the Prosperity Project. Kent and I'll be right back with Kris after this. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, and Kris Rush with the State Chamber on The Verdict. Kent, where to now?
I'd like to have you explain to us how this works, this Prosperity Project. We know generally that you put questions out to candidates and they're supposed to answer them. But just get in a little more detail about how the whole thing works. How do you interface with employers
Great question.
and the like?
Great question, Kent. We have made it known throughout Oklahoma employers that they can sign up to participate in the Prosperity Project. And basically what that means is that they agree to help their employees register to vote, share with them some of the information on the issues that we've talked about already, lead them to the information about the candidates so that the employees can make up their own mind. And then finally, motivate all of us to go out and vote.
What do you do about which races you cover? I know you're covering the Oklahoma State
Right.
House and the Senate.
Right.
What about the federal races, the Coburn-Carson race or the other congressional races?
I'm glad you brought that up. This is our inaugural year for this program. And so we've decided to focus strictly on Oklahoma State House and the State Senate.
Okay.
But as soon as our voters guide was announced a few days before the primary, I can't tell you how many emails that we got from voters saying, this is great, but can you give me information about the federal races and the county races? And people are writing in saying, what are you going to tell us about the state questions? I think those kinds of things will be coming further down the road as we get into the 2006 campaign.
So you don't intend to check in on the 2004 state questions?
We may get to that. I know the State Chamber is evaluating those at the moment. We don't have any immediate plans to do that.
Take me through, when the information is passed on to the potential voter, is it a score? Is it a checklist? Is it a results of the questionnaire? What do they receive?
Basically, what a voter can do, anyone in Oklahoma can do, is log on to okprosperity.com, and they will. And what's cool about that website is that there's a link that they can click to get a voter registration form or an absentee ballot. But if they go down the left side of the website, there's a button that says Compare Your Candidates. You click on that, you type in your address, and it will list every candidate that is running in your area, including the federal races and the state races. And then what you do is you come down to the state races, click on any one of those candidates, and you'll see all of the 32 questions that we asked the candidates, and then how they said they would vote, yes or no, on each one of those issues. So it's real simple to use.
Let me ask you about the questionnaire the candidates get. I looked over it and noticed that there were, are there opportunities for the candidate to say anything other than yes or no?
Not this year, primarily because we had to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And 32 questions, it was really challenging to limit those 6 issues to just those numbers of questions. So we didn't want to overwhelm voters with too much information.
And if someone does not respond to the questionnaire, it just says did not respond?
It just has a little blank that shows us that at this point they've chosen not to tell us, where they stand on those kinds of issues.
Okay, how did you determine what questions to ask?
We had a committee of people that have worked on economic issues for a long time, some of the State Chamber staff and members from Tulsa, from Oklahoma City, and from outside, representing all those business interests who have had experience year after year in trying to solve some of the problems that we need to face in Oklahoma.
What kind of response have you been getting from the candidates? I mean, well, first of all, I guess I'm a little ahead of myself. The questionnaires have gone out to the candidates.
The questionnaires went out in early June, and at that point there was a potential of 351 candidates that could have responded. We got 255 candidates to complete the survey, so we were thrilled with that.
Wow.
Now, since the primary, we're evaluating how many we still need to get. Candidates can complete them anytime between now and the election, and we'll be visiting with candidates that haven't completed the survey, and Oklahoma employers and employees will be visiting with them to encourage them to let us know where do they stand.
Let me ask you a little follow-up with that. Let's say that there's an employee that hypothetically lives in Weatherford, and there's probably a House or Senate race at issue out there.
That's right.
And can they get on your website, go to that particular race, and
Yes.
see how each candidate responded or whether they responded?
All they have to do is go to okprosperity.com, click the Compare Your Candidates button, and their candidates will come up. They click on the candidates and it'll show how they've responded to the survey.
What problems are you running into?
It's been amazing, really. We haven't had hardly any problems. I think the biggest problem Oklahoma has is that people still aren't clued into the national election. And, you know, at the primary, 33% of registered voters actually went out and voted. So part of it is just early lack of interest or lack of awareness would be the key thing. But this program will be gearing up big time as we all go towards the November election. I think the surprise has been how many employers really saw and see what this can accomplish. For the first time, instead of trying to figure out how in the world do we decide who to vote for, there is a place to go, anyone can go, and look and see how the candidates that we have before us will affect our wages, our benefits, and the future of the state.
Well,
so,
excuse me, go ahead.
Well, so at this point, we have over 250 employers who have signed up. Many of them are statewide and have employees in every legislative district. And they represent well over 100,000 employees to date.
You just read my mind, because I was going to ask you. I went on to your website early on and saw you had about a page and a half worth of employers. All the employers who've signed up are on your website as well.
That's it.
So if an employee wants to see if their employer has signed up and perhaps they haven't heard anything yet, they can get on the website and find that out. But now you've got, I checked it the other day, you've got like 4.5, 5 pages.
It's amazing. It's really been fantastic.
Now, does an employer have to pay?
No, the program's free to everyone. And that's the beauty of technology today, in that people can log on. It costs nothing to get the information. And as a matter of fact, there's a real informative video on at okprosperity.com that tells everyone about the program. And it's free to employers. And employers receive emails from us, and this is how they actually implement the program. Once they sign up to be a participant, then they'll get an email when there's something that they need to do. For instance, voter registration deadline is coming up. So we send them an email that says, here, voter registration before the primary, voter registration deadline is July 2nd. Here are the tools to help you register your employees to vote. And there are several little blue links in that email that they just click on, and there are flyers, there are break room posters, check stuffers, all the kind of tools that they could use, print out for free to make the program work within their operation.
Well, I tell you, the time has gone very quickly, but Kris, we appreciate you coming on The Verdict this week.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Nick.
thank you.
You, Ken.
Kris Rush, the Prosperity Project. We appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Kent and I'll be back with the final word after this. Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers here to wrap up a show with Kris Rush.
Yes, Kris was kind enough to join us and talk about the Prosperity Project, really an interesting new concept about getting the electorate more informed about who's running and what the issues are. I wanted to ask Kris, didn't get a chance to ask her, but talked to her after her segment was over, and one thing she wanted me to emphasize was that part of this project is for the employers not to tell the employees how to vote. That is a no-no, and they try to avoid that at all costs. And we're pleased that she could take the time to come out and join us. It'll be interesting to see how this experience progresses. I want to also mention, Mick, that while Kris was kind enough to be on with us this week, next week we're going to have the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Cal Hobson, join us again. Talk about tort reform and talk about what's going on this last session and what's going to go on in the upcoming session. And we're always pleased to welcome Cal back.
I want to give you some website information. You can reach Kris Rush's Project Prosperity website at okprosperity.com. And of course, you can visit our website at theverdict.tv. We'll see you next week on The Verdict, 9 o'clock, Sunday mornings, right here on KSBI. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week.